Well, good afternoon. Thank you again for joining us for today's webinar on the SECURE Act. My name is Carrie Maloney. I'm Marketing Manager at TBA Credit Union. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. All attendees will be on mute to help keep down on background noise. Andrew Maniaci, CFS Financial Advisor at TBA Investment Services, will be our presenter today. If you have any questions or comments, please use the Q&A box, as we will be keeping an eye on that. A recording of this meeting will be available on our website in the next week or so. Again, thank you for joining us from the comfort and safety of your home, and I will hand it over to Andrew.
I'll unmute myself. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Andrew Maniaci. I am the financial advisor here at TBA Credit Union, and it's nice to see a lot of familiar names on the attendee list and a lot of new names as well. So that's fantastic. Welcome all. We are going to talk about the SECURE Act today, but I did want to mention another act that has been in the news recently, and that is the CARES Act. The CARES Act was signed off by the President, passed by Congress back in late March, and that is the coronavirus stimulus package. In today's presentation, I'm going to be talking about the SECURE Act. The SECURE Act is a different act signed back in December of 2019, which seems like a lifetime ago after all the craziness that has gone on in the last couple months. But we're going to focus on that SECURE Act today, but that CARES Act that has been very much in the news recently, that coronavirus stimulus package, we are going to discuss that in another webinar coming up in June. So I'm going to touch on it really briefly in today's presentation, but we are really going to dig into the CARES Act in a month on June 9th at noon. We will be doing a webinar just like this, and we will talk about the CARES Act and how that impacts your retirement savings and your retirement planning. Today, though, we are going to focus on the SECURE Act and how that affects your retirement plans. And again, I'll briefly mention the CARES Act today because it is part of the discussion. It does have an impact on what we're talking about. So without further ado, I'm going to get into the SECURE Act presentation, and this is going to be a recorded presentation that Carrie mentioned that will be uploaded to our website within the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to push the play button. I'm going to share my screen as the presentation goes. If you do have questions, feel free to put those in, like Carrie said, in the Q&A area, and then we'll monitor those questions throughout the presentation. And after the presentation is over, I'm going to be back at the end live like this to answer any questions. If there's a question that you have that you don't want to ask in this setting, at the end of the presentation, you're going to see my email, my phone number, all my contact information will be displayed on the screen. And please feel free to call or email me with those. Otherwise, we're going to get going with the presentation, and I'm going to get this set up here. Make sure it looks good. Okay. So again, I'm going to push the play button. Please feel free to put any questions down in the Q&A. I'll be back in about a half hour once the presentation's over to answer those questions, and we will see you then. Enjoy.
Hello, everybody. My name is Andrew Maniaci. I'm the CFS Financial Advisor at TBA Credit Union, and today we will be talking about the SECURE Act. Now, the SECURE Act, which stands for Setting Every Community Up for Retirement Enhancement, was enacted back in December of 2019. And it does represent the most sweeping changes to retirement plans and retirement legislation since the recession. All provisions did take effect on January 1st, 2020, with the exception of a few, which I will note throughout the presentation. And you should also note that while we are going to discuss many of the SECURE Act changes that will impact your retirement plan, whether you're an individual or a business owner, there are some things that we did not include here. So feel free to go look that up, and certainly let me know if you have any questions about any of the SECURE Act provisions that are not included in today's presentation. And the SECURE Act does have a wide variety of very positive changes to you as an individual investor. But one of the changes in the Secure Act, and it's a big change with the elimination of the stretch IRA, is going to be a negative to you, either as an IRA account holder or as the beneficiary of an IRA account. So we're going to talk about this elimination of the stretch IRA to begin today's session. It is, as it says on the screen, the one notable drawback for investors with significant assets in traditional IRAs and retirement plans like 401ks and 403bs. And it'll make these individuals want to really take a look at a few things within their accounts. First of all, they'll want to reevaluate their beneficiary choices. So if you have an IRA account, or if you're the beneficiary of maybe one of your parents or grandparents' IRA accounts, how is this going to impact you? We'll talk about that in a second. You'll also want to reevaluate your estate planning strategy in terms of how you're going to pass down your IRA money to your beneficiaries in a tax-efficient way. And this is certainly something that you want to bring in a financial advisor like myself, but also estate planners, lawyers, a CPA or tax professional that you use. And you want to take a look at how your traditional IRA dollars fit into your overall retirement planning strategy. So is the traditional IRA the best fit for you based on the changes that occurred in the Secure Act? So again, we're talking about this elimination of the stretch IRA. So first of all, we have to talk about, well, what is the stretch IRA that's being eliminated? So what we used to have was a provision that allowed non-spouse beneficiaries, and that's a very important point here. We're talking about non-spouse beneficiaries, but it allowed these non-spouse beneficiaries who inherit traditional IRA or retirement plans like 401ks, 403bs, 457, you used to be allowed to spread those distributions over your lifetime. So let's say you were 50 years old and you inherited a traditional IRA account and from a parent or grandparent, and there was $100,000 in that traditional IRA that you inherited. What Uncle Sam said before these changes occurred is that you could start drawing, and they did force you to start drawing on these inherited IRA accounts, but you had to draw off that a minimum amount every year, and you could spread that over your lifetime. And what we're doing is we're spreading out the taxability. You used to be able to spread out those taxable distributions over your entire life. You could stretch them out so that you've got $100,000 that you inherit and you're 50 years old. You could slowly take distributions out over time, especially if you're in your 50s and you're still working and you might be in a higher tax bracket and you wanted to wait until you're 60 or 70 or 80 to start cashing out bigger chunks. You were able to do that before and spread out the taxation of that IRA money over a long period of time. However, as the slide says, the Secure Act has eliminated the stretch IRA. So the new rule is that beneficiary accounts must now be liquidated within 10 years of the original account owner's death. So now if I'm 50 years old and I inherit an IRA and that IRA has $100,000 in it, I have to liquidate. I have to cash all of that money out within 10 years. So it doesn't matter how I do it. It's all that matters is that it is completely liquidated and cashed out within 10 years. So I could take out $10,000 every single year for the next 10 years and pay taxes on that $10,000 every year. I could wait to that 9th year or that 10th year and take out big chunks at the tail end of it. But now I'm taking out maybe $50,000 or $100,000 per year in those last few years. And I'm maybe pushing myself into a higher tax bracket. But the idea is that with the elimination of the stretch IRA, we cannot stretch out those distributions. We've got to cash out this IRA money within 10 years. And this is especially harmful to individuals. And again, whether it's you as the IRA owner, leaving it to your children, or maybe you are the child of a parent who has a large IRA that you are going to inherit one day. Well, this is going to harm that beneficiary at tax time. So again, you may want to revisit some of your retirement planning strategies if you have a large traditional IRA balances. We do want to look at some exceptions here. So we want to look at what beneficiaries this does not impact. And this list of beneficiaries are what the Secure Act calls eligible designated beneficiaries. So I talked about the liquidation of those funds within 10 years. Well, that does not apply if you are, for example, the spouse. If you are the spouse of the IRA holder, you are able to, when that IRA holder passes away and you're the spouse, you can move that IRA money into your own IRA and you're not forced to cash it out within 10 years. If you are disabled or chronically ill, or if you're a beneficiary that's less than 10 years younger than the IRA holder, and this is especially true in the case of siblings. I have a lot of clients who inherit IRA money from a sibling that sibling is maybe 3 or 4 years older. So there's a very small age gap. They're within 10 years of each other. That sibling can take that money and they do not have to liquidate within 10 years. And then finally, minor children. So if you're a minor child of the original IRA account holder, you do not have to liquidate within 10 years. So let's talk about how that's going to work. First of all, let's think about yourself. You've got an IRA account, and let's pretend you've got a minor child. Maybe you do have a minor child. If you pass away, that minor child receives that IRA money when they are 8 years old. The rule says now that that minor child does not have to liquidate within 10 years as the new law states. What's going to happen with that minor child is that minor child has to liquidate that IRA money within 10 years after turning the age of majority. So that minor child inherits money at 8 years old. They turn the age of majority at 18 years old. So my current 8-year-old daughter would inherit my money, and she would not have to do anything until she was 28 years old. She's not going to be a legal adult until she's 18. And then once she turns the age of majority at 18 years old, she then has that 10-year clock that begins when the minor child turns the age of majority, which is either 18 or 21, depending on the state. But that minor child will then have to start, thinking about, okay, I've got until I'm 28 years old to cash out this money. This is very important too with this minor child, that this is only minor children of the IRA owner. So if it's a grandchild, let's say grandma leaves an 8-year-old grandchild some IRA money. That 8-year-old grandchild, though that is a minor child, it's not her minor child. So that 8-year-old will have to start cashing that money in. And by the time that child is 18 or 10 years later, let's say it's a 5-year-old, by the time that 5-year-old is 15, that money in that IRA that was inherited has to be cashed out. So what we're looking at here on this list is a list of individuals who do not have to liquidate their account within 10 years. And this is, the spouse, again, I would go back to is the most popular. I've got husband and wife clients. They'll inherit each other's money and they do not have to cash it out within 10 years. But in most cases, what we're talking about with the stretch IRA is when you've got beneficiaries who are children, adult children especially, or grandchildren. You are someone who inherits money from your parent, and it's IRA money. you're going to have to cash that money out within 10 years. And this is for account owners who pass away on or after January 1st, 2020. So this is for IRA owners that are going to pass away in the future or have passed away earlier in 2020. It is not for folks, account owners who passed away before January 1st. So anyone who passed away before 12/31/2019. So let's say you already have an inherited IRA because you had a family member pass away before January 1st, 2020, and you already have an inherited IRA in place. That is not going to change anything. You can still stretch out those IRA payments for the rest of your life. You do not have to liquidate within 10 years. So those stretch schedules that are already in place for account owners who died before 12/31/2019 do not need to be modified. If you've got an inherited IRA from any time before 2020, you do not have to change anything with that account. This is only for account owners who pass away going forward. So it's especially true if you've got a large balance IRA, traditional IRA, that a child, grandchild, niece, or nephew are going to inherit. We want to take a look at the long-term implications, tax implications for those beneficiaries. As discussed, this shorter maximum distribution period could result in unanticipated tax bills for the beneficiaries. So again, I'm 50 years old. I'm not planning on cashing out any of my own personal IRA money, but all of a sudden I inherit this huge IRA from a grandparent or a parent. I've got to cash that thing out within 15 years. That's going to cause me some extra tax burden. I'm going to have extra taxable income as I start taking out money from that inherited IRA that I've just received. But you also want to think about not only on the receiving end, but on the giving end. If you've got beneficiaries who are going to be impacted by this, what are some strategies that we can get around that large tax bill? And that one strategy that we can talk about is the Roth conversion. So converting some of your traditional IRA money to Roth IRA is one way where you can ease the burden on the beneficiary. So easing that tax burden and taking that burden upon yourself. Conversion of a traditional to Roth IRA simply means that you're taking this traditional IRA money that you currently have and moving it over into a Roth IRA account. And as you move dollars from traditional to Roth, you are paying taxes on those dollars in the current tax year, but you're paying the tax on it, not your beneficiaries. So down the road, when the beneficiary inherits that Roth IRA, those are going to be generally tax-free distributions. So when that beneficiary gets that Roth, no matter what age or relationship that beneficiary is to you, if they're receiving that Roth, those should be tax-free distributions. So essentially, by converting traditional to Roth, if it makes sense for you, and you do need to consult a financial advisor like myself, consult your tax person as well, and make sure you're not going to take any unsuspected tax hits when doing this. But that will take the tax burden off your beneficiary. You are putting it onto yourself, so you want to make sure it makes sense for your personal tax situation. But if it does make sense for your personal tax situation, this is a great way to get around this elimination of the stretch IRA. You're easing that tax burden for your children. Now, that was the elimination of the stretch IRA, and that was the big downside to the Secure Act that was passed back in December. But we do want to talk about the benefits, and there are many benefits that the Secure Act introduced to retirement account holders, whether they be individuals like we'll talk about now, or small business owners. Now, the first big benefit to individuals is that retirees will no longer have to take a required minimum distribution from a traditional IRA by April 1st following the year they turn 70 and a half. So the old rule before the Secure Act was when you turned 70 and a half years old, you had to begin taking annual required minimum distributions. So this is a distribution that you have to do every single year for the rest of your life so that Uncle Sam can collect his tax money on those distributions. And we're taking those distributions every year starting at 70 and a half. That is the old rule. The new rule, thanks to the Secure Act, is now the new age is 72. So 72 years old is the new starting age for those required minimum distributions. A key point here is that this applies to individuals who turn 70 and a half on or after January 1st, 2020. So if you turn 70 and a half in 2020 or in 2021 or beyond, your new starting age is 72 years old. If you turned 70 and a half on or before 12/31/2019, you do have to follow the old rule. You cannot wait or defer until 72. So if you've already started your required minimum distributions in 2019, you do have to continue them. If you didn't turn 70 and a half until 2020, you can delay until age 72. A few notes here. First of all, talk to a financial advisor like myself about more details on this, or talk to your tax person. Another thing, though, is there was another act. Now, we're talking about the Secure Act today, but there was something called the CARES Act that the president signed back in March of 2020. It was essentially the coronavirus stimulus package. Part of that package waives the required minimum distribution for the year 2020. So in the year 2020, regardless of your age, 70 and a half, 72, whatever, in the year 2020, thanks to the CARES Act, that coronavirus stimulus package, individuals with retirement accounts do not have to take a required minimum distribution in the year 2020. As far as we know, you will have to begin or continue taking your required minimum distributions in 2021, but you do not have to take it in 2020 thanks to the CARES Act. But back to the Secure Act, the screen we're looking at, if you didn't turn 70 and a half until after January 1st, 2020, then you can wait until 72 to start taking your required minimum distributions. You can talk to your financial advisor, talk to me here at TBA Credit Union, and we can talk about it in more details of when you have to start taking your required distributions and how much you have to take. Some other changes from the Secure Act. People who choose to work beyond the traditional retirement age of 65, 70, whatever that age might have been, but essentially what we're looking at is beyond age 70 and a half. Individuals who work beyond age 70 and a half can now make contributions. They are able to contribute to traditional IRAs. So people working beyond age 70 and a half can now contribute to traditional IRAs and get that tax break that qualified contributions give you to traditional IRAs. The old law prohibited such contributions. So the old law said if you were 70 and a half or older, you could not contribute to a traditional IRA. Now the law says you can, but you do have to be working. You have to have a taxable working income to be able to contribute to a traditional IRA, but there is no age limit at this point. For more information, again, talk to a financial advisor like myself. Talk to your tax person to make sure you are eligible to make contributions. But with traditional IRAs, there is no age limit. And the Roth IRA never had an age-based contribution limit and still does not have an age-based limit. So at this point, any person at any age, as long as they've got a working income, can contribute to a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. Another benefit to individuals, part-time workers, age 21 years or older who work at least 500 hours in 3 consecutive years, generally must be allowed to participate in a retirement plan. So the big advantage here is for those really part-time workers. It used to be that the requirement was you had to work 1,000 hours to be eligible for your work 401k. The new law says that you have to work at least 500 hours. It is for 3 consecutive years, but 500 hours versus 1,000. So you don't quite have to work as many hours to be eligible for a 401k at work. Now, this is one of those that doesn't start on January 1st, 2020. This is a rule that starts January 1st, 2021. And that's for the plan years, for the 401k plan years. So individuals working 500 hours starting in January of 2021 may be eligible to contribute to their 401k plans. You'll want to talk to your 401k plan provider for more details on that. Also, we've got individuals are now allowed to take penalty-free withdrawals of up to $500 from their qualified plans. Qualified plan being, again, a 401k, a 403b, a 457. They can also take from their IRAs. This is penalty-free due to the birth or adoption of a child. So if you adopt a child, if you have a brand new child at home, you can take up to $5,000 from your traditional IRA, and it is penalty-free. However, income taxes will still apply. So income taxes on distributions from 401ks or IRAs will still apply. It is just a penalty-free. You do not have the 10% early withdrawal penalty that you used to have. Also, taxpayers with high medical bills are able to deduct a little bit more from their taxes in 2019 and 2020. So you're able to deduct expenses that exceed 7.5% of your income. The old threshold used to be 10% of your income. So I would say if you're in this category, you've got high medical bills, you're taking money out of IRAs to pay for those medical bills, talk to your tax person for more details, see if you qualify for a little bit more of a tax break thanks to the Secure Act. And 529 account assets. These are the college savings accounts. They can now be used to pay for student loans, which they were not able to be used for before. So you can pay for student loans up to $10,000 in a lifetime maximum per person, and also costs associated with registered apprenticeship. So this is a little bit more flexibility for the 529, and these 529s are those college savings accounts that can be used tax and penalty free on most college-related expenses, tuition, room and board, books, travel expenses, but now could also be used to repay student loans or on apprenticeships. Again, any questions on 529s, please contact me here at TBA or talk with your financial advisor about more details on those college savings accounts. Workers will begin to receive annual statements from their employers that are going to estimate how much their retirement plan assets are worth in terms of a monthly income amount. So we all see our statements from our IRAs and our 401ks, but when we think about it in terms of our retirement plan, if you've ever done a retirement plan, you're kind of putting all your goals together. How much is retirement going to cost me, and how am I going to pay for those monthly expenses? Well, when you look at your 401k balance, for example, it's really hard to think about, gosh, I've got all this money in the 401k. How much could I expect to receive from the 401k on a monthly basis? Well, now what's going to happen on your 401k statements or when you log into your 401k website? So they're going to express your balance, not only just in the total balance that you have, but in terms of monthly income that account might be able to generate for you. So now when you're thinking about your retirement plan and you know you need to receive $1,000 per month from your 401k to help pay your bills, you can take a look at your 401k account statements or the website and see if you're on pace to meet that goal. How much monthly income will your 401k provide? And that is something that we can talk to you about here at TBA. You're doing that retirement planning, or certainly talk to a financial advisor like myself or someone else to put a retirement plan together so you can start to create your goals and figure out what kind of monthly income you're going to need. In the same vein, we're talking about that income. With the Secure Act, it's now easier for employers to offer lifetime income annuities within retirement accounts at work. So within 401ks, 403bs, it is easier for employers to offer it. It doesn't mean that employers have to offer a lifetime income option within your 401k, but new laws have made it easier for 401k plans to offer that option. Again, going back to your retirement plan, and how much money are you going to need in retirement on a monthly basis to help pay your bills? The new law, the Secure Act, makes it easier for 401ks to offer you lifetime income annuities within your 401k. If your employer doesn't offer that, and you still have that monthly income listed on your statement, or you could talk to a financial advisor about how to generate lifetime income in retirement. Now we're going to get to the benefits that employers are going to see with the Secure Act. We talked about just now a bunch of benefits to individuals. The benefits to employers, higher tax credit for starting a new retirement plan. So there has always been a tax credit for an employer to begin a 401k at work, for example, but those tax credits are now higher. So I know many employers who have been thinking about starting retirement plans, seeing these higher tax credits are maybe pushing them over the edge of creating a 401k or a simple IRA or something at work. This is something that as an employer, you want to talk to your tax person and see what kind of tax credit you qualify for before implementing that retirement plan. And there's also a new credit for employers who add the automatic enrollment option to their 401k or their work plan. So there are a few different tax credits available to employers to help incentivize them to offer their employees work retirement plans like 401ks. And there's also some relaxed rules on that non-discrimination testing, that year-end testing that has to be done on many retirement plans. With regard to those part-time employees, we talked earlier about those employees who only work 500 hours a year. Well, that's going to add a lot of participants to the plan that don't work a tremendous amount of hours. So that could skew some of the non-discrimination testing. Well, the new rules in the Secure Act have relaxed some of those testing methods to make it easier for employers to offer work plans. And there's also a higher ceiling for auto increase, now up to 15%, which allows your employees to add more to the plan at work. Employers have easier access to join MEPs. MEPs are multiple employer plans. This is a way for a small business that maybe only has 5 or 10 employees to link up with other businesses and create a larger employee pool, if you will, that will reduce, using economies of scale, it's going to reduce the overall cost of the retirement plan. So if you're a small business and you've just got 5 employees and gosh, I just don't want to create a work plan because it's going to be too costly for only 5 employees, you can now team up with other businesses, and they don't have to be like-to-like businesses. If you're a landscaper and then there's you have a friend who's a doctor and has a doctor's office, and a third friend or business colleague that owns a lumber yard. The 3 of you could team together and create a multiple employer plan, a MEP. And now instead of just your 5 employees, you've combined and have 50 or 75 employees or whatever the case may be. So 75 employees in this larger plan is going to mean lower expenses to you as the business owner. It's going to mean lower expenses to your employees in the plan. and make it easier for you to create a plan for your employees and for yourself to contribute to. And the rule is effective January 1st, 2021. And that's it. Those are the main benefits. We're going to end with a quick little quiz here to talk about just some of the ideas. Nothing that you're going to be graded on, certainly, but I just want to reinforce a few of the facts. Question 1, if my date of birth is June 5th, 1948, am I required to take a required minimum distribution in 2020? Well, if you were born in June of 1948, that means you turned 70 and a half years old in 2018. You're already 70 and a half. Even though the new rule says you can wait till 72, remember we talked about if you've already turned 70 and a half before January 1st, 2020, you do have to take required minimum distributions in 2020 and beyond, because this individual turned 70 and a half in the year 2018. So then again, kind of an add-on to this slide, again, we talked about the CARES Act, the coronavirus stimulus package, waiving the RMD in 2020, kind of throws off some of these slide questions, but the key still is the new age is 72 for required minimum distributions, as long as you haven't already turned 70 and a half by 2020. And to eliminate some confusion, certainly call your financial advisor, call myself here at TBA, and I can walk you through if you're eligible for the RMDs or not. Question 2, those 529, those college savings accounts can be used for qualified higher education purposes, can only be used for qualified higher education expenses. And the answer is false. Now, we talked about those apprenticeships, for example. They can be used for things other than those higher education expenses. Would spouse beneficiaries still be allowed to do a spousal rollover under the Secure Act? And the answer to that is yes. Remember those 5 categories of beneficiaries who were eligible to stretch out the money. Spouses are certainly one of them. So if your spouse or yourself, you pass away and your spouse inherits your account, when a spouse inherits an IRA from the other spouse who has passed away, they can do something called a spousal rollover. So they can just take that IRA money that their deceased spouse had, and they can put that into their own IRA, and they do not have to cash that money out within 10 years. They do not. So a spouse can still do a spousal rollover. And will the Secure Act eliminate the stretch IRA for existing inherited IRA accounts? The answer is no. The Secure Act does not eliminate the stretch IRA for those existing in inherited IRAs. So these are existing inherited IRAs for people who have passed away before January 1st, 2020. If they existed before January 1st, it will not eliminate the existing inherited IRA. You can still stretch that IRA out over your lifetime. If you inherit an IRA in 2020 or beyond, you will have to liquidate that account in most cases within 10 years. If you inherit an IRA and you have questions, please give us a call or call your financial advisor or your tax person to help you with more details on that. And that was a real quick run through of the Secure Act and all the provisions and changes that we feel most important for you guys, our members, my clients here at TBA Credit Union, TBA Investment Services. I am again Andrew Maniaci, the CFS Financial Advisor here at TBA Credit Union. My number, my email are on the screen, and I have 2 offices at TBA, one located at the South Airport Veterans Drive branch and one located at the Front Street branch. Please call or email if you have any questions. Otherwise, I hope you guys all have a fantastic day. And again, please call with any questions you might have. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Okay, hopefully I am back live. There I am. Hopefully everyone's still awake after that presentation. I heard myself at the end saying that that was a quick run through of the Secure Act, but there was so many changes to so many different areas that it wound up taking me 35 minutes to go through them all. And if you have any questions, certainly type in a question in the Q&A area. There was a few things I heard myself saying there that I wanted to touch on. First of all, I talked at that end section about retirement plans for small businesses. One of the things I do here as a financial advisor is manage 401k plans, simple IRA plans, plans for small business owners that they want to offer a retirement plan to their employees. So that is something that that I can help you with if that's something that you need. The other thing really quick is I got one question sent to me privately or however this works, but the question was basically that I mentioned a few times during the presentation that I, a financial advisor like myself, do you help with the retirement accounts and figuring out monthly income? Oh, because yeah, during the presentation I talked about that one section of the Secure Act that forces employers to talk about monthly income on the statement, so you can get a better idea of what kind of monthly income to expect from your 401k or retirement account. That is one of the things that I do here at TBA. I am a financial advisor that helps with investments, whether it be regular stock market investments or retirement accounts like IRAs or 401ks and managing those types of accounts. But I also do retirement plans for members of the credit union and my clients, which is essentially what I said during the video. We talk in our sessions. These days it's via Zoom, but hopefully one day soon it'll be live face-to-face in one of my offices. But we talk about the retirement plan. How much is retirement going to cost you and how are you going to pay for it? And we look at all different factors in your life, from your expenses and all the things you want to spend money on in retirement. A lot of fun stuff, hopefully, but a lot of necessary stuff like monthly utility expenses or medical bills or things like that. But how much is retirement going to cost you on a monthly basis? And then how are you going to pay for that? What's the income going to be? Is it Social Security? Is it a pension? Is it part-time work? We'll look at your spouse's income if you are married. And then we'll look at all of your savings and make sure that the savings you have built up will be enough to complement the income that you're going to have in retirement. And essentially what we're looking for is we want to make sure you don't run out of money by the time you're 75 years old. We want that money to last throughout your retirement. That said, I'm going to take one last look at the Q&A, and I don't see any other questions. Please reach out if you have any questions for me. I'd be happy to talk about really retirement planning, the Secure Act, the CARES Act, the crazy stock market we've got going on right now. Again, my number is on the screen and my email, so please reach out to me any way that you would like. Otherwise, I'm going to end this presentation. Again, I appreciate all of you for joining and taking time out of your day. And the sun is kind of sort of popping out here, so hope you have a great sunny afternoon, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks everyone for joining us.